Um, so I think everyone's heard about the Jeffrey Epstein case continuing and what's happening there. Uh, the president, through Ivanka Trump, just dedicated $35 million for services for victims. And the attention has come back to human and sex trafficking once again. So although we've been all working on this for quite some time, uh, the community has another round of interest in this. And as we start to see the need for supporting our police officers and everything that's happening in our communities, unfortunately, drug trafficking and sex trafficking are two of the crimes that intersect and really impact us in our everyday lives. So um, COVID has been its own issue. And I just want to remind everyone, it was a year ago at our VAST meeting that we were being told about HIV and the impact that HIV and disease had and how it applied to trafficking. And I think COVID is just a sister to HIV. And we know that as it relates to trafficking and the transfer of germs and disease, that this will have a long-term impact on many of our vulnerable people. So I wanted to introduce Kevin Thompson, who's our city council person. And Kevin, did you want to give a couple comments before we get into our meeting?
Sure. So yeah, this is really our first Zoom meeting that we've had for VAST, and I was just kind of scrolling through and looking at everyone that's joined us, and it's quite the crowd. We have quite a few people on here, so thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully before too long we'll be able to get back together face to face and have that human contact that we also desperately crave, especially with Bob Nelson sitting up there. I gotta throw a plug in for Bob. Bob's our man.
Yes, he is.
He takes care of us. And so, yeah, so thank everybody for jumping on and taking time out of your day to join us. And yeah, so go ahead, Kathleen, and take it away. If you want to run through introductions, I don't know if you want to do that or not, or if you just want to go for broke.
I think there's like 45 people on. I see Mark Tetzlaff from Homeland Security. I'm not getting to see everybody. I see Commander Bellows, who we were just on the phone, and Commander Bellows is from Mesa Police Department, my hometown police department. And then our speakers I will introduce. So we have Leah Benson from CC's Hope, and then Sam Corrett and Noel Thomas from Zero Trafficking. And I know I'm looking at the names too. And so we will have a chance at the end. So if anyone who isn't speaking today on the agenda but has some announcements, we will cover that at the very end, if that's okay with everyone. I wanted to give you an update since January, since the last time we met. There were some things that happened and 3 or 4 cases. So during that time, my husband and I hosted a survivor who lived with us for 5 months, and she's now independent, has a job, and is registered for college and is working. So that was a huge success, and that was exciting. We also hosted a mom whose daughter was left for dead. The pimp tried to kill her by hitting her in the head with a hammer. And although we have a lot of resources for victims, if someone becomes a victim in our state, but their parent is coming from another place, we really don't have any place for that. So I received that call from the Dream Center. The good news is they got to go home right before the COVID started, right as it was starting. And VAST provided suitcases and clothing and support for the family, so that this young lady who had been a runaway for 4 years, her mom had not seen her for 4 years, and her first reintroduction was at a hospital side bed where she pretty much was in critical condition. So we did a lot of that support, and they're doing well, and they're in Kansas, and we're really excited about that, that we could do that. In the last few weeks, we recovered a girl that unfortunately was addicted to drugs, and we had her out for about 3 hours, but the drug addiction was stronger than staying out, and we're seeing more and more. The street drugs are very inexpensive. Heroin is now about a $30 a day versus when it was $300 just maybe a year or 2 years ago. And so I don't know, I'm being told by other law enforcement that crime is down, but the use of drugs is up, and it's intersecting with our trafficking victims. And there's a lot of work that we need to be doing, because sometimes that's how they get their drugs is by obviously human and sex trafficking that's happening. So we're seeing more and more, I'm seeing more and more what I'm going to call zombie people out on the streets, more and more homeless. So it's unfortunate, but it's been a side effect of the COVID and everything that's happening. As you remember, we were about to have a major fundraising event right before this happened, and we had to up with people who had already brought their first team in, and we had to cancel the event. But we continued our fundraising efforts, and I have to tell you that we raised $37,000, and we were going for 150. So obviously we fell short of a goal, but we didn't have our event, and I thought that that was a really positive thing. So we have resources, we have money, we can fund projects, we can fund events. And again, with the focus coming back to human and sex trafficking, we have a lot of people reaching out. And I will remind everyone that our primary goal of this group is to bring everyone together that's working on this, but to focus on our law enforcement and to get them resources and technology so they can do their job as effectively and efficiently by providing those resources. And so that's all the updates I have. And I have worked in this space for 10 years. And one of the people I met in the very beginning is Leah Benson. She is a woman with a huge heart for helping survivors of trafficking. She has worked diligently. She ran Streetlight for many, many years. And she is now in Chandler. And I will let Leah tell you about CC's house and all the work that she's doing there, and how it's expanded and growing and it's got momentum. And so Leah, you can unmute, and if you would be so kind as to share with us an update on what's happening. And if anybody doesn't know about CC's house, just assume no one knows anything and tell us what you want us to know about the work that you're doing and what's happening right now in Chandler. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for inviting. I see several names that I've known for a long time that are on here as well. And so it's been great, you know, having stepped away for a couple of years due to my husband's passing was difficult, and still working through that, right? But this is, as much as I've tried to get away from this issue, it just keeps coming. So I know, as I knew then 10 years ago when I kept saying this is not a place for me, that God has me in this place for a reason. And so while at Streetlight USA, we took 11 girls 11 through 17 towards the last portion of my stay there before I had to resign due to my husband, was that we were seeing many girls that were aging out of the system that had no support. And so going to my board and saying, really, we can't take 17-year-olds. We need to stop taking 17-year-olds because we can't help them enough. As many of you guys know, the support that's needed to support these girls are many, many years. Kathleen, I haven't shared with you, but Carolyn Jones is back. And some of you know her, and she's been going in and out of the life many times, and she is my mentor. She is the one who's taught me everything that I needed to know about boundaries and supporting these girls as we move forward. So what I found was that there was a need to serve girls 18 through 24, but we didn't want to duplicate services that were out there. And so the goal of CC's was to connect the girls, specifically those who are aging out of the system. But I'm finding that we're starting to get a lot of referrals from the private sector. In fact, I just got a call yesterday from a psychologist that said, this girl doesn't know she's trafficked. She's 19 years old. She refuses to admit she's being brought to these parties. The men pay for the events, and it's drugs. They're able to get drugs all they want, right? So Kathleen, to your point of increase in that, exist. And so many of the girls that we help right now are referrals from also other girls that are trafficked out there. And so again, our focus is 18 to 24. But what we do a lot of is we do case management. So a girl comes to us, Kathleen sent us a girl, and she is at risk of being trafficked. She was Native American. And in many situations, what I've found is that it takes a collaborative effort to address the issues. It's not one organization. So we've kind of taken on the role with the girls that we serve, the role of being that coordinator. So a girl comes in, for instance, this psychologist called me. She's got sexual issues, possibly have been with about 40 men within the last 3 months, about 5 a day. And so she has sexual issues. She has self-esteem issues. She lives at home, has great parents. She's a Christian. And so we don't need to take her out of the home. So what do we do? So who are our partners at the table that we can go to address sexual addiction, for example, to address self-esteem issues, for example? And so our case manager, I hired her from Chicago. She understands streets very well, Monica Ivy, and she's able to sniff out whenever the girls are telling stories, right? Whereas some of us may not because of our hearts and where they are at the time. So from a case management perspective, we would take in this individual and we would look at what services they need, and we would connect them in the community. And so our role is to stay consistent in that young lady's life and saying, are you going to counseling? Are you maintaining that? How's your sessions going with reference to whatever self-esteem issues there may be? And so being that consistent there. And thanks to the board and some fundraising that we have done, we are now looking for a home in the East Valley to house some girls, starting with about 8 girls. But we're not going to take just any girl. These girls that we are going to take into our home have to be ready to transition. So these are girls that have maybe worked through some type of program, but need additional support to then start transitioning back out in the community. So to serve 8 girls, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like they say, 1 starfish at a time, right? And that's what we do, is we serve 1 life at a time. We are in the process of developing an online help system, where it is survivors that are running it. And with COVID, we've had to be very innovative in how we do this, because how do we vet the girls? We can't see them in person. They don't always have internet connections. And so how can we see who they are and what are they really up to? Do they really want support? Are they someone that we've been helping for a long time and consistently continues to do what they do? If so, how do we help this person or not help this person? So these are the different things that we do at CC's Hope Center. We do have a controlled growth factor with reference to all of this. Any of you guys have any housing recommendations? Would love to have that. The hardest thing that we're finding right now working with realtors is that they want an application on every girl that's going to move into that home. Well, you guys can imagine what that looks like, right? That's impossible. So that's the barrier that we're finding right now in finding a home. But our hope is to find a 5-bedroom. Our case manager would live there, and the girls would have to go through a specific program in order to be able to stay in the home. So that's CC's Hope Center. And we hope that you'll join our mailing list and support what we do as well. And if we can support you in any way, we'd love to be able to do that too.
Leah, thank you so much. It's hard work. These survivors have gone through a lot of trauma, and we talk a lot about trauma-informed care, and sometimes whatever they've experienced is just, we can't imagine. And so that you are in that space and doing that work and continuing to do that work, just thank you for everything you do. Just love and respect you, and I'm grateful that you got to present. And I think we're working on a grant together, so I'm hopeful that that comes through, and we'll talk about that later. But and those are the kinds of collaborations. We just have to be smarter about our resources and what we're doing. So thank you. When COVID started, I got reintroduced to 2 young men who are going to be our next speakers. They are working in a space that is kind of where everything is going if you're going to get the bad guys, and it's all technology based, and and they do things, and I'm going to let them explain what they do. But what they're providing is a resource that we haven't seen, because it's not just nationally, it's internationally, that their work that they're doing, and their backgrounds lend themselves to the work that they're doing, and how they approach this crime and the crimes around trafficking is unique. And so I'm always looking for another way to come at this. This is such a big thing, and as we're learning, it's pervasive, from pornography content to things in our schools to our communities, and so it takes someone thinking outside of the way that we've always done things to attack and be successful. So I would love to have Arizona. Sam is in Virginia and Noel is in Florida. They came out to Arizona for the first time about a month ago. We are hoping that they will be coming and become a part of our community, and that they'll be working with local law enforcement. That's what we're working on right now, to bring their techniques and their talents to help us stop this crime of trafficking. So Mr. Thomas and Mr. Corrett, I'm going to mute myself and turn this over to you. And they are part of Zero Trafficking, which is, if you don't mind just hanging with us a few more minutes. I wanted to, I realize I missed somebody. There's a lot of great people on this call, different police departments and such. And then Abby from Schroeder, right? I think, just might have messed her last name. Abby from Martha McSally's office is on the call. So thank you for that representation. And I still don't see you, but I know that you're here. So
thanks, Kathleen.
Oh, good. Yay. I heard you. We're thrilled that you're involved. So there was supposed to be training earlier this month, and 86 officers had signed up. It was we'd gotten a Department of Justice grant. It was going to be conducted at the community college. And unfortunately, it was at the point where COVID was spiking in Arizona, and the people that were going to come and train said they didn't want to come to Arizona. So we already give Sam and Noel credit. They came to Arizona even though there was COVID here, and we appreciate that. But because we had to cancel it, the Department of Justice gave us an extension on our grant. We are going to try to redo that, or not redo it, but do the training come end of September, beginning of October. We'll get that information out. Obviously a location, it needs to be done in person. It's for law enforcement only, and it's confidential. But the good news is that they have extended us 3 classes. So we can do this training and then do an advanced training and do another advanced training, or we can do the same basic training, and we'll make that decision. But we did have 86 officers from around the state interested in that. So that's a good sign for us that what we're doing matters, and that people are investing in our organization, and especially in our law enforcement. So that's an update. That was supposed to have been held, I think, August 4th, but we will be having it in the next 45 days for our law enforcement partners. And so,
Kathleen, real quick,
yeah.
on that same topic, just had a question come in, and they want fire service wants to know how they can help.
Fire service? Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
They can attend the training, even though it's law enforcement, and they're first responders. And then they can also, I think they're probably seeing, my experience with fire is that they always see the drug side of it before the police sometimes, because they get called out to the scene. So how do we, I'd like to just, again, bring our law enforcement partners together with fire and see what is the best way for them to work together. But they also, if they see the leads, making sure those leads get captured so that they're not lost. Like they're treating someone who's on drugs, but maybe there's the next question that you want to ask, or the next part of that. It's like doctors treating at a hospital when they see stage bruising or they see a broken arm, but then they don't identify that person as a trafficking victim. So maybe working with fire on, we've done some training, it's been a while, but maybe it's time to redo that training again on identifying trafficking victims. So I would love to get together with whoever offered that question from fire. That's a great idea. And any of our first responders are critical to identifying these victims. And so just making sure we build a bigger safety net around so we can help and protect them. And unfortunately, we're seeing more of them during this time. There are also resources on our website, according to Sam. So Sam, thank you. The Zero Trafficking has resources on their website. And we'll get their website out to all the members of VAST after this meeting. It is now time for announcements. So does anybody have an announcement that they would like to make on behalf of their organization or their group or anything else that anyone wants to tell this group? Well, hopefully.
Crickets. It's
Yeah,
crickets out there.
We've made you also depressed, right? Because now we know it's international and it's worse than we thought. And oh my Lord.
I'll ask a question or throw out an idea. Kathleen, it's good to see everybody.
Please.
Hi, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
I'm from Mesa Community College, and obviously with everything being virtual now, what we've tried to do, and we're really excited about, we've created what we're going to call Civic Action Hour. We're going to bring in speakers. We have all sorts of different speakers on voting and civic engagement work, and we're looking at this topic as a potential speaker. So every day and on every Wednesday for the whole semester, we're going to bring in different ideas, different thoughts, and I would love to see how we could connect on a Wednesday. And even amazingly, if we all supported it, we could have another huge presentation with more of our clientele or organizations to learn and grow. And now with the virtual world, we can be anywhere presenting and talking and learning and growing. So if there's an opportunity to do this or other issues like this, I would love to connect the dots. And I did see a couple of emails. I'll try to make sure I copy them. So that would be an opportunity that we could all work together on.
Dwayne, that's great. And it's exactly that. And I have to tell you that since everything's been on the news, I'm actually scheduled to speak 6 times, which is a lot for me in a month. And that's coming up in the next few weeks. So it tells you how critically important this issue is. And if that's an invitation, we will get you the right people, Dwayne, to your meetings and have people present on this. Our local law enforcement, Mesa, Gilbert, all the East Valley cities, and even our tribal police that are on this call today are doing a great job in identifying and recovering and working during COVID. It's an interesting time. But for me, during this time, and not to get political, but to really support our law enforcement, what they're doing. And I've been buying a lot of breakfast and lunch if I see cops out having breakfast or lunch. So it's just a little thing to do, but just to acknowledge that they matter and their presence matters. And we are grateful for the job that they do. And again, we are doing what we're doing here, like bringing these resources in so that we can give them the advantage, because it's really about getting the guys off the street that are exploiting these people. Because the recovery after someone is exploited, it's lifelong. You can't be trafficked and then you're all good next Tuesday. It's not like a broken bone. So it is important and incumbent upon us to do everything we can to use every resource we have to attack this. So I'm really excited about that. We don't have our date for our law enforcement only meeting, but there will be one in September. And we'll reach out to our law enforcement partners. And then our next meeting is going to be October 8th. We don't know if it'll be in person or virtual. Right now we'll say it'll be virtual, but if we can meet in person, we will. Oh, thanks, Mark. So Mark is acknowledging that Trust and Homeland Security have a training that they do with Banner. I got a call from Phoenix Children. So Mark, I may reach out to you after this call because they're looking for a training too. So I just have to tell you that the work has not slowed down. The need for people to be vigilant and to use our resources wisely I'm working with several of our state legislators on the money that was just allocated for victims. So we are trying to be more collaborative and more responsible with our resources so that we can bring as many benefits to Arizona, and specifically to Maricopa County, and then our group works countywide. But everything everyone is doing matters, and we will continue to have this conversation and look for money with partners that we haven't worked for. The Department of Defense is an example. You know, we know there's a tie in there, but we haven't aggressively done that, and we're now starting to. I also want to remind you that it was us a year and a half ago that told you TikTok was a bad thing, and so that's now out there too. So we have been ahead of some of this stuff, and so if nothing else, come to VAST, because hopefully we'll know it first. Is there anything else anyone would like to add at this point? I just am so grateful to see so many wonderful people on and faces, and know that we will keep you updated, and we're moving forward on this, and we are really trying to have a technology center brought to Arizona like the ones in Virginia and Florida, so that the West Coast can have the representation that the East Coast has, so we can start to attack these networks. So if you want more information or anything, don't hesitate to reach out, and we will get you what you need. And I just want to do a shout out to Mesa and Gilbert PD. We've been tracking a girl for about 8 months, and we found her, and she was reunited with her dad, and she was addicted to fentanyl, and we had her out for about 3 hours, and she had to go back because she needed to get her drugs. I get a lot of calls from parents that are at their wit's end and they don't know what to do. And so for me, it is important that we understand that the families in our communities that are affected by this don't know what to do, and they need us to do what we do. And so I'm grateful to our law enforcement partners, and Mesa and Gilbert were involved in that case, and they were exceptional, and they got 30 minutes notice, and they helped us do everything we could to try to, we did recover her, we just couldn't keep her out because of the drug situation. So it was eye-opening for me, and we will continue to fight this with everything that we have. So I just want to thank everybody again, and we will be bringing you more good news in the very near future, and we are going to give it everything we have to fight this. And Councilman Thompson, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I don't, Kathleen, but just saying thank you to everyone for taking time out of their day to jump on and share in this discussion. And next time, make sure you bring plenty of questions. We want everyone to be as involved as possible, and because this truly is a lot of people think this is a victimless crime, and it's not. The victims have faces and they have names, and so we just gotta make sure that we're putting the bad guys away, and supporting our police department and law enforcement and their efforts and all that they do to eliminate this atrocity that's taking place in our community. So thank everyone, and I really appreciate again everyone taking time out of their schedule to join us.
Thanks, you guys. Everyone have a great day and have a great weekend, and stay safe. And we'll be back in
and stay cool.
Yeah. We can't promise that. We all live on the face of the sun, but we love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good job, Kathleen.
Thanks, you guys.